Have you ever written an article that you wanted to put on your blog or on your website and you wanted everybody to see it and you put it out there and then nothing happens? That sucks. I know I've done that. SEO is really important, and understanding all the different pieces of it is crazy hard. Fortunately, I had Farzad Rashidi. He's from Respona, and he came and shared all of his best tips so that you can make sure that your SEO, your content you put out, actually gets seen so that you can get the results from it that you deserve. Check this one out.
Welcome to SaaS-Story in the Making, the podcast that features the people who made the software world what it is today and the leaders who are shaping the future of technology. Here's your host, Matt Wallach.
Yes, welcome to SaaS-Story in the Making. I am your host, Matt Wallach. I am super happy to have you here. So thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're here on YouTube, this is going to be a fun one. I am really excited to be joined by my special guest, Farzad. Farzad, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me on the show, Matt.
Absolutely. Glad to have you here. Let me make sure I tell everybody about you. So Farzad Rashidi, he is the co-founder and lead innovator of Respona. Respona, it's an all-in-one digital PR and link building software that combines personalization with productivity. I took a peek at this thing. It is really slick. So I'm excited to learn more about what it does and how they're helping everybody. He's also formerly the director of marketing at Visme. So when it comes to understanding growth, especially around things like SEO, Farzad is super amazing at it. So I'm excited to share his knowledge with you. Once again, Farzad, thank you so much for being here.
Of course, man. I'm excited.
Me too. So tell me what's been going on with you lately and what's coming up.
Sure. So we have been heads down working on a product. So that's kind of exciting for me because it's my favorite part of working at startups. I get to kind of build stuff and be creative with things. And we're working on a new version of Respona we're releasing soon. Lots of cool features that's going to save a lot of time for my users. So yeah, man, I've been doing a lot of testing and it's been fun working with working with our engineering team.
That's phenomenal. I love that stuff too. And I've, had a few startups myself, and it's kind of interesting playing a bunch of different roles. And okay, now I'm the salesperson. Now I'm the product owner, and going back and forth is kind of a fun time. But tell me, I know Respona does a lot of great stuff to help with things like SEO and link building. Why is link building so important?
Sure. Yeah. So I think, Matt, just to kind of get into it, I'm happy to give you a little bit of a background. I think that would be helpful. In terms of sort of how we came up with the product in the first place. So
that'd be great.
Perfect. So I started my career in marketing, Matt, as the first marketing hire at Visme. Have you heard of Visme before?
I had not.
Never heard of Visme. All right. No hard feelings. So have you heard of tools like Canva or Prezi? Any of these tools?
Yes.
Okay. Got it. So just they're somewhat of a competitor, but we predominantly cater to businesses, so SMB and enterprise. And Canva is more of a household name D2C software. So what we basically started to do was the company was founded in 2013. So it was quite new at the time when we were one of the first infographic creation tools in the market. And when I joined the company consists of less than 10 mainly engineers who had built this product, and they just handed it to me. They're like, all right, here you go. I was like,
go market this.
Yeah, go sell this thing. I was like, well, do we have a budget? They were like, no, we're a bootstrap company. So good luck. I was like, well, yeah, now we're going to have to figure out a way. Yeah, exactly. So we had a few channels. We had a few options in front of us. Obviously, the first thing that comes to your mind is cold outreach. Problem with that was in terms of outbound, our product pricing was basically very affordable. So at the time, I think we were like $14, $15 a month. Not the type of product that's worth hiring SDRs and AEs to go out there and sell it door to door, right? So it just wouldn't make economic sense. Mm-hmm. And paid advertising was an option for us. Problem was it was not really a scalable channel, because like when you start spending money in paid ads, first, it was a very expensive way to get some eyeballs to get people in the door, but also at the same time, it gets more expensive by the day, and ROI is diminishing over time. And you know this more than anyone. So meaning you double your budget, it doesn't mean you get double the conversion. So the cost per conversion basically increases as you increase the budget normally. And it's just something that was not in the cards for us, because we also didn't have the hundreds of millions of dollars that our competitors had that were just burning through their cash as a bootstrap company. We didn't have that luxury. So we sat down, we're like, okay, what are we going to do? So like, all right, let's put ourselves in the shoes of a customer. So Matt, let's say you want to create an infographic tomorrow for your business, for one of your podcast episodes, and you don't already have a solution. You're looking for a solution. What's the first step in your research process? Like, what's the first thing that you naturally go do when you want to
pull up a browser and start searching for it?
Search where?
Well, on Google.
There you go.
But
exactly.
I have no idea what. I'll just be like infographic creator or something.
Perfect. Exactly. So that was the aha moment, right? So we're like, okay, we know where our customers are hanging out and how they're going about finding a solution like ours. Now, instead of becoming a household name, because that costs hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, let's go position ourselves to show up in places where people who are looking for a product like ours would come and find us. Now things get interesting, aren't they? So we're like, okay, well, we've heard of this thing called SEO. So we know that if we want to get ourselves up there, we need to start producing some content, start a blog, build some landing pages, stuff that, Rand Fishkin at the time at a whiteboard Friday, we would watch it and you're like, okay, great. We're going to start building all this content. So we hire some writers, we build these pages, really good looking pages. We're a design company. So we put us all out there and guess what happened?
Nothing.
Yep. We're like, okay.
Been there.
Yep. We're like, well, this is kind of discouraging because we spent all this time and resources on these things. And that was 2 months down. So what are we going to do? So one day I pulled up this browser and I Googled, if you actually want to do this with me, it's kind of funny. I don't know how many search results are out there now, but just go and Google like one of our parent keywords. I think Google presentation software. So if you just open a new incognito tab in your browser, so your existing browser history doesn't impact the search results, and just go Google presentation software. See how many search results pull up for the keyword presentation software. It normally right below the search bar, it shows you like, here's how many pages we found in however many seconds. How many pull up?
Mine doesn't show the amount of results for some reason.
Oh, okay. Is it like covered by ads?
Yeah, there's a bunch of ads.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So for me, it's showing right now 3.5 billion, 9 zeros. That's right.
It's quite a lot.
Yep, 3.5 billion search results for the keyword presentation software. All right, and what do you see right after the ads, like in the organic search results? Are we on there?
Visme's number one.
Ah, perfect, awesome. All right, so what?
Good. Must have had a great marketing director.
I know, right? Who's this guy? So what you see now, Matt, is the top of the iceberg. So just to give you the overview now where we stand today. So Visme is now getting close to about 3 million in monthly organic traffic.
Wow.
And meaning traffic that we're getting from Google without spending a penny in paid ads. Now, guess how much that's worth? There are some SEO tools that give you how much your traffic's worth based on the keywords that you're ranking for. If you were to bring in the same level of traffic using paid ads, just throw a number on AdWords.
No idea. A few $1 million.
$1.5 million a month.
Yeah,
worth of ads that we're getting for free.
Wow.
So, well, free is an overestimate. Obviously, we have writers and marketing team members. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. But it's nowhere near $1.5 million a month, right?
For sure.
And so what we basically had to figure out was, okay, if there are 3.5 billion search results for our keywords, even if you're in the top 1% in terms of quality of content, doesn't matter what you define as quality. Let's say you write a really kick-ass piece of content, spend all of your time on it and design it, make sure your site loads fast and is effective. And this is what we call on-page SEO in technical nerdy terms. But that's what everybody's doing. So let's say even if you're in the top 1% in eyes of Google and there are 3.5 billion search results, you're still in the millions, right? So how do you go about going from the millionth search results to the top 10 where they get like 99% of the clicks? So that's when we found the idea of link building and how Google algorithm works. So Not sure whether you remember this, Matt. You're a young person.
Oh, that's very kind of you. He's lying for sure.
But back in the late 90s, Google wasn't the predominant search engine. It was, it was dominated by Yahoo and Bing and AOL and a bunch of other
I do
guys.
remember that. I am old enough for that, for sure.
Okay, great. So how they dominated the market was based on this algorithm they put together called PageRank, which is the core of Google even to this date, where it doesn't prioritize web pages solely based on the content, because that's something you can easily get around with just stuffing keywords, but also looking and seeing how popular that web page is. And now popularity is hard to get, right? Because now not only you have to create a good site, but now you have to convince other people to talk about it. And the way they define popularity is in terms of backlinks. So basically, when you see those hyperlinks on other people's websites pointing to you and they're referencing you and talking about you, that is a vote of popularity in the eyes of Google. So we were like, great, these backlinks sound like they're the solution. So let's try to go build them. And it turns out it's harder said than done. So we had another series of failed experiments, and over time we figure out a plan, and we're like, okay, this is how we go about building relationships with relevant publications in our space. And it was something that was completely done manually. So we were basically finding the right websites, finding the right person, getting their contact, reaching out to them with a relevant personalized pitch, and then building a relationship with them. And it was just so hard to scale and very time consuming, especially for a small team with limited resources like ours.
I can imagine.
So like, guys, we're a software company. Let's build this little internal tool that could help us sort of streamline the whole thing from start to finish. And we put it together, and then it just worked ridiculously well. And we're like, guys, this is awesome. Say almost 10x top productivity. And we're like, okay, this is almost a no-brainer. So we decided to release it as a standalone tool. So that's how we ended up with Respona.
That's beautiful. I love it. Necessity is the mother of invention. It happens so often. You guys needed this thing. You were spending way too much time, and you said, hey, let's automate this. And for all those people out there who are like, hey, how can I find my next great idea? It's like, well, what is taking too long for you? And how can you make that process better? And I love that you guys found that. It's such a cool story, and amazing how impactful link building can be. It is really all about getting those links back to your site. Of course, you got to do all the on-page stuff like you mentioned, but really that link building. And it is tough. If you try to do it manually, it's rough, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I always try to advocate for, is that you also need to allocate your resources proportionately to the amount of time and resources it would take to make it successful. So right now, up to this day, we spend 20% of our marketing resources on content creation. The other 80% goes into promotion and link building. And both of our companies, both Visme and Respona. And it's something that I would assume 99% of companies don't do. And that's what's been a competitive advantage for us. That's now is turned into a beast that's very hard to beat.
Wow, that's really incredible. So if you're a startup, like a lot of our listeners are startup founders, or they're in an early stage SaaS company, how would they figure out if SEO is the right acquisition channel for them?
Matt, that is a great question, because what I'm talking about today is not to say that, hey, if you run any sort of SaaS company, you need to go out and start focusing on SEO. That is not the case. SEO, just like any other channel, is hard work, and it does take quite a lot of resources. And resources is in terms of, Respona was a small team. We were 2 people when we started. So obviously it doesn't require a ton of resources that you wouldn't be able to manage as a solopreneur, or if you're just starting out as a bootstrap company. But it is going to take up your time. And so you need to be very calculated in terms of what's going to move the needle for you at the end of the day. Meaning that, hey, if you sell a very expensive, like for example, enterprise SaaS, that's like $100K a year, and you cater to a very specific niche in the market, and just go hire an SDR, man. What are you doing thinking about SEO? Stop this show right now. This is not relevant for you. Go ahead and start selling. Go to door, go whatever it takes to get in front of the right person. And then out of 100 people I talk to, 2 of them are going to say yes, and great, done. You made it, right? Now, if your customers are aware of the problem they're solving, and also they're looking for a solution to their problem online, and that's how they're doing Google, right? That's why I always ask you, Matt, It's like put yourself in shoes of a customer and ask yourself, how am I going to go about finding a new product or service? And if the answer to that, hey, I'm going to start Googling, and that's where I start my awareness stage in the buyer journey, that means that it's almost idiotic not to invest in your SEO. But anything other than that, let's say you run a medical device company. I remember one of my friends works at a company like that. And it was like, hey, how are we gonna get our SEO in shape and optimize our site for search engines? And I told him, I was like, don't. I was like, you don't need to. You're selling devices that are 50 grand a year. The sales cycle and the process for closing is completely different from a software company like Respona that's $99 a month. $99 a month. So that process of, I would say, finding out whether your customers are looking for it online is not rocket science. You can easily understand that by just putting yourself in the shoes of the customer.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's super smart. So, okay, let's say they decide on it. They say, yep, SEO. What are some of the things that leaders should keep in mind when they're putting together an SEO strategy?
So the first step normally when it comes to SEO is understanding the right keywords. And that's normally where a lot of people fall short on, which is striking to me because like it looks as if it's common sense, but a lot of people don't. Like if you go on, especially some big companies that have a lot of budget and just throwing money at it and not quite limited in terms of resources in a way that the startup founders are. You see that they just, if you go to the blog, they're just like, oh, employee highlight. And then they're talking about, hey, here's our whatever, how do we do this and that? And it's just, there's no clear direction in the keyword that is optimized for that page. And if you go and look at the traffic, it's getting 0 from Google. So step one is to first identify the right keywords. And that has nothing to do with Respona. So before you even think about link building, you need to have this as solid foundation for your website. So ideally, you want to prioritize keywords that have the highest amount of volume possible, but have the lowest amount of competition possible, and are commercially valuable for your business. So all three need to be met. So that overlap is what I call the opportunity keywords. And that's how you want to prioritize keywords based on a parent topic. I can dig a little deeper if you like in terms of how to exactly go about implementing it.
Yeah, how do you even find these? How do you say, okay, where would I go to find that out for my company?
Sure. So let's dig a little deep. No problem. So there are a lot of on-page SEO tools like Ahrefs, SEMrush, or Moz. We internally use Ahrefs. SEMrush is also a great software. These tools help you with keyword research. So you can drop a parent keyword. For example, let's say, Matt, you're in the SaaS space, okay? And you consult people on SaaS. And let's say SaaS sales or SaaS in general is your parent keyword. That's how we kind of talk about it. And once you run it through these SEO tools, what they give you is a gazillion different search suggestions based on your parent keyword. So meaning, what is SaaS marketing? How do I do SaaS sales? Or what are the best SaaS tools? Yada, yada, yada. So there's a ton of different search suggestions. Now, how do you go about prioritizing them? Because obviously, when you have a billion keywords, you can't just shoot blank and start writing from the heart. Yep. So what we do then is to take 3 metrics that correlate with the 3 pillars for our keyword research. So we extract these out of these tools and pour them into a little spreadsheet. And we put it into this little formula that we put together called the opportunity score, and we used to call it the Farzad score. And then our team was like, we're not going to call it the Farzad score. So we landed on opportunity score.
Oh, that's too bad.
Right. I know, right? I was heartbroken. Anyway, so basically it's a very simple formula that basically is the number of clicks that a keyword gets, because not the volume necessarily, because some keywords have a feature snippet and people just get their answer without having to click into any website. So one ideal to prioritize keywords actually people are clicking into, multiplied by 1 over keyword difficulty, which is a metric from 0 to 100 these SEO tools give you. That basically is an indication of, hey, who are already ranking for this keyword? Are you going against Google or Microsoft? Probably not going to have a shot. But are you going against me? Probably you got a shot. So it gives you a metric from 0 to 100 that we multiply that into with the number of clicks metric. And that obviously, the higher the keyword difficulty, the higher the competition. So we want to prioritize it in reverse. That's what we did, 1 over. And another thing is also another rule of thumb that we have is playing within our league. So SEO is not a game of shooting for the stars. Don't do that. So we have a rule of thumb that basically says don't just cut out all the keywords that have a higher keyword difficulty metric than the domain rating of your website. And a domain rating is also another metric from 0 to 100 that explains how and that's how powerful the backlinks profile to your website is. So as you gain more backlinks to your website, the higher your domain authority gets, and then the higher keyword difficulty keywords it could go after. So cut out the ones that are out of your league, and then within the ones that are left, let's insert it into the formula. So that's 2 out of 3. And the last one is commercial intent. Now, commercial intent is difficult because you need to put a number to a commercial intent. So the best metric we landed on was actually that it has nothing to do with SEO. It's the cost per click for that keyword. So meaning that the reason why we picked that metric is because advertisers like to make money. So if somebody is betting on that keyword, they're paying hard-earned cash for that keyword to get people into their website. That means that keyword is potentially commercially valuable. So let's insert that into our equation to prioritize keywords that get a higher cost per click that we would potentially want to get rankings for. So we do a 1 plus cost per click. So the entire formula is number of clicks multiplied by 1 over keyword difficulty multiplied by 1 plus cost per click. And then gives you a very arbitrary number that means nothing on its own, but it's a good relevant metric that basically helps you sort of prioritize keywords that are in the same parent category. And then once you start descending, there you go. On a silver platter, you got a prioritized list of keywords that now you can go through. And that leads us to the second step of the process, which is understanding user intent.
That's really, really cool. So understanding user intent, I mean, that's amazing because you're right. If people are paying for it, if they're willing to put SEM money toward it and you know, try and ramp up that, or not trying, but it ramps up the cost per click, it means that they think that they're going to be able to get some revenue out of it. So there must be customer intent there.
That's right. Absolutely. That is for commercial intent. Now, user intent, the way we define it in an SEO game is in terms of what are people looking for when they're searching for that keyword. So once you go off that list, like you run the way you understand user intent is by simply just Googling that keyword in Google and seeing what comes up. For example, if somebody's talking about SaaS pricing, they're potentially looking to understand, hey, what are different ways I can price my SaaS and what are some of the best practices and etc. So they're in the awareness stage of the process. So they're probably looking to get educated. Now, if somebody is looking for SaaS tools, they're potentially looking for a listicle. They're likely going to be or SaaS marketing templates. They're probably in the consideration stage. Actually, they're looking to download something or actually read about certain tools. Or if somebody's looking for like SaaS SEO software, they're at the decision stage. They're about to purchase something. So you better hit them with a landing page. This is a sales page play. This is not something they would go and write an article about, right? So understanding what comes in Google, because they're running millions of these A/B tests every single second. So they have a pretty good idea of what people are actually looking for. And correspondent, or basically, you want to take a look and see, okay, what is the type of content that's actually already ranking? And you want to go ahead and create a similar type of content. And that's how you understand buyer intent. And this is how you create web pages that are geared towards user intent.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. And I totally understand based on what they're searching for. They're at different levels within their journey. And it's really important to understand how to service them and feed them the right material at the right time.
Exactly.
So Farzad, this has been awesome. What tips can you leave us with if I was a new SaaS founder and I'm trying to get things going, I want SEO to be a strategy, where should I start?
So a lot of people leave it at clicking publish. So when you normally create a piece of content or a landing page, you put it on your website and you're going to hit publish and maybe share it on your social media that nobody's going to read or see. And then you wait a month or two and you're like, hey, nothing is going on. Maybe SEO is not the right channel for us. So let's move on to the next thing. All right.
Yep. I've seen that before.
Yes. And that's how most companies do it. And over 90% of companies I see that focus on SEO only stick with the on-page stuff. Reason being is we're human beings. We don't like things that is not under our control. So we like to have a sense of control, and what you put on your website is entirely up to you. So that's why people are so comfortable. And that's how most agencies, SEO agencies, function too. They just write you content. They just put together pages for you. They do keyword research. And that's where their services end. And that's what most people think SEO is. But to us, as a company, this is step one. This is the foundation, right? This is a necessity. It's not a nice to have. So this is when we get it published, great. That's how our work starts. So we're like, okay, now we got this page out. Let's see how we can get some eyeballs on it.
Fantastic. That's super important. I totally agree. And that's really where it does start. So this is phenomenal. Farzad, thank you so much for coming on the show. I want to make sure people can connect with you or learn more about Respona. What are the best ways for them to do that?
Sure. So Respona, we actually didn't get to chat about link building and promotion at all, since that was obviously, we don't want to make the episode go too long, but we have a lot of educational material on our website. So if you're one of those people that's considering SEO, or you're doing SEO and it's not working, probably backlinks is a component that you're missing. So you don't need a software like Respona to get backlinks. You can do a lot of that stuff yourself manually. We're only good for people who are already doing some sort of outreach and looking to scale. So that becomes a no-brainer at that point. But we have a little outreach strategy guide. So stuff I didn't get to talk about on the show, it's all ungated for free, hosted on our website, and you can replicate all of them manually using free tools or one or two paid tools. And that's called the Respona Outreach Hub. So if you want to navigate to respona.com, respona.com, at the very bottom of the footer, there is a Respona Outreach Strategy Hub. Definitely take a look at that if you're just starting out. We give you ready-to-use templates and recipes to work with. And to connect with me personally, I'm more than happy to help. If somebody has any questions, my name is Farzad Rashidi. There aren't a whole lot of them out in this world. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to help.
I think we are alike in that there's not very many of each of us, not very many Matt Wallachs out there either.
Right.
But that's great. That guide sounds familiar. I'm going to go check it out for my companies. It sounds perfect timing for what we're thinking of. So everybody make sure you go check that out at Respona. We'll put the links in the show notes as well, so people can get there really easily. But Farzad, this is awesome. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing so many great tips and tactics for us. This has been really helpful. Thank you.
My pleasure. Anytime, Matt.
Yeah, for sure. And for everybody else out there, thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Hope this was valuable to you. Make sure you're subscribed to the show. Hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss any other amazing creators like Farzad, so that you can get more and more for your company. Thanks for coming. We will see you next time. Take care.